guys, what's up and welcome to a spooky edition of the 2-Bit Review. It's October, it's Halloween, it's time for a spooky, scary game. For those who enjoy Lovecraftian horror, I got a special game for you folks today. It is Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem for the Nintendo GameCube. Now this game has been praised up and down the interwebs and through various groups of friends I have as one of the great hidden gems of the Nintendo GameCube. But is it really? Well, we're going to find that out today. And I did play this game when I was a kid and owned a GameCube, and I just played it this week. But we're going to have to get into the review for you guys to figure out my thoughts on this game. So, without further ado, let's see if Eternal Darkness truly is one of the GameCube's greatest games. Let's jump right in. Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem is a third-person survivor horror game developed by Silicon Knights and published by Nintendo. Originally planned for the N64, the game had a rocky development, being delayed then switched to the GameCube as a launch title, only to be delayed further. It finally released in the summer of 2002. Eternal Darkness, being a survivor horror game, has parallels with the Resident Evil franchise. The development team didn't seem like they wanted to be Resident Evil's little brother. The developers stated that the game was a horror-style game, but not the survival horror like Resident Evil, but more a psychological thriller. They also claimed that instead of B-movie plots and jump scares that other franchises relied on, Eternal Darkness would do more to mess with the players' heads. The development team made some content cuts to the game. A character, Joseph de Molay, even though he was cut from the game, some fans theorized that he still makes a cameo in the game as an NPC credited as Defeated General. They also ditched the fifth ancient in the story, a group of ancient beings that defend or attempt to destroy humanity. There are 4 in the game. These ancients are represented by colors, and the planned fifth one's color is still in the game, that color being yellow, which pops up when an enemy is destroyed or a rune is not assigned. Eternal Darkness, while critically received well, was not commercially successful. Nintendo canceled a sequel, and since Nintendo owned the IP, Silicon Knights later tried to create a spiritual successor titled Shadow of Eternals. But unfortunately, Silicon Knights closed their doors in 2014. So with these tidbits done, let's see if this game truly is a hidden gem for the GameCube. The gameplay is very similar to Resident Evil. It is a third-person action game with puzzle and exploration elements. Where it differs is a crafting system for runes that use magic to enchant items that will either fix or alter a story item. Or it could also enhance a weapon to attack certain enemies. There is a sanity system. The more messed up creatures your character sees, the less sanity they have. When it is very low, the game will mess with the player quite a bit, even borderline trolling, like faking game crashes or faking an ending to the game. The controls are your basic survivor horror mainstays: fixed cameras and tank control movement. The combat is one of the high points of this game. It has a targeting system that allows you to pick different parts of the creature's bodies to attack. This adds a lot of strategy, as certain parts of the monster are more vulnerable to attack from melee or ranged weapons. The enemies are not too difficult once you have a full grasp of the magic system. Monsters are color-coded, and so are your rune alignments. You have 4 colors: red, green, blue, and purple. Every color is weak to one of the others, so if you use the right enchantment on your weapon, you will decimate your enemies. This part of the game allows for a lot of experimentation. Magic is also used to protect you or refill your 3 core bars, which is health, magic, and sanity. The game had a clever way of letting you pick the difficulty mode. The game's prologue not only shows you how to play, but gives you the choice at the end between 3 items, a red, blue, or green one. Red being the hardest mode. While this is cool, they don't really spell it out for you. And this approach, I think, is very unwelcoming to someone who is new to this style of game, and if they pick the more difficult mode by accident, they might put the game down and not come back to it. The enemies in this game are numerous. I'll name just a few. You got your basic zombie types, and they come in different sizes and strengths. Trappers are these little scorpion-looking creatures that will zap you into a different dimension. Horrors are big tank creatures that are difficult to defeat. There's also this big insect monster that can teleport and summon other creatures to attack you. You have big Lovecraftian winged skeletons. They use these wings to defend themselves from the front. You have to maneuver behind them to damage them. Finally, you have these creepy little parasite monsters that will hide inside people and then burst out to kill you. Kind of like aliens. There's much more that I'm sure is being left out, especially talking about the bosses, and these bosses will differ depending on what difficulty you chose. But I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, because part of this game's charm is the monsters shocking and surprising you. The level design is fair. You have all the trappings of a survival horror game. Mostly narrow hallways and small rooms to keep you in constant conflict with the game's enemies. The game offers a few big open areas for reprieve, but not often. You play a range of characters from different time periods and different attributes, i.e., some have higher health but lower magic, and vice versa. Your pre-modern era characters are mostly melee-based, with a couple of ranged weapons, while your modern characters are more ranged-based thanks to the invention of firearms. Eternal Darkness first comes off as an RE ripoff, but further playtime reveals a deep magic system that connects to the strategic combat system, not to mention a diverse cast of characters with their own strengths and weaknesses. Then throw in the Sanity system as a wild card that can really turn the game and your mind on its head. All of this offers a unique experience for the player. I give it 3 bits out of 4. When I first started playing this title, I thought the sound was horrible. You may have noticed some audio stuttering in some of the clips in the review. Come to find out, my AV cables were bad, so after buying a new one, the audio problems went away. The sound is clear and the music creepy, eerie, and downright terrifying in some portions of the game. It really helps immerse you into the game and world. The voice acting is competent and great in some parts, but most characters won't leave a lasting impression on you besides Edward Roivas and Pius Augustus. But that may just come down to one of them being the narrator to the story and the other the antagonist. So they get more screen time, and with that they get to express more range with their characters, where for the rest of the cast the story jumps from character to character, so the other voice actors don't get as many opportunities to do the same as the voice actors for Edward and Pius. Sound effects are good. The monsters have their own unique sounds, like the trapper making a high-pitched noise if it detects you. The melee weapons have a very satisfying slice and crunch sound when you cleave a monster, and the guns sound and feel powerful when shot. Sound is fantastic. Overall, I give it 3 bits out of 4. Graphically, this game looks a little dated, even for its time. Luckily, the dark setting hides a lot of this game's graphical shortcomings, but you can definitely tell that this game was originally developed for the N64, and looks at best like a launch title for the GameCube, or what I like to call an in-betweener. What I mean by that is a title that was made in the interim of 2 console generations. While looking better than the previous gen graphics, it doesn't take full advantage of the new gen's capabilities. An example I can give of another previous N64 title that got pushed over to the GameCube was Resident Evil 0. Now this title looks like a 6th gen game, where unfortunately Eternal Darkness wasn't able to pull off the same result. The story to Eternal Darkness is crazy. It jumps around several characters and time periods. It's a lot like a Quentin Tarantino movie. You're going from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, to the middle of the story, back to the beginning, and then in the end. It's just jumping all over. It's not linear. It just jumps around. And that's basically the story structure of Eternal Darkness. The basic synopsis of the game is that there are godlike beings referred to as ancients. They are very powerful, but they all balance each other out. At some point in the story, you have a Roman commander named Pius Augustus who discovers a forbidden city and finds the Tome of Darkness and artifacts, each possessing an essence of the powerful godlike beings referred to as ancients. He chooses one of the artifacts and it transforms him into an evil antagonist for the rest of the game, but he is only the Darth Vader of this story as he serves the god of the artifact that he chose. And so for the rest of the game, you follow the Roivas family, Edward and Alex Roivas, and their various allies throughout history as they battle Pius and his evil ancient god. Now, the diverse cast of characters that you can play is a strength. For gameplay, it is a weakness in story presentation, as I feel that the only characters that really got to develop and got a lot of screen time, again, is Edward Roivas, who is the narrator to our story, and Pius Augustus, who is our main antagonist. Now, it could be argued that Alex Roivas also has a lot of character development, especially since she is the main protagonist of Eternal Darkness, but I feel she is a very reactionary protagonist, as most of the game she is just reading about what all the other characters did previously before her. And it's not until you get to the end of the game that she becomes a very active player in this struggle against Pius and his ancient evil god. Now, even though Silicon Knights did jump everywhere and did a Tarantino-style, story presentation, they do tie it up all very well. In the end, the villains are defeated, the ancient god is defeated, the good guys win. In fact, actually, if you play the game on all difficulty modes, you get a bonus ending, and everything is wrapped up nice and neat, and leaves the door slightly cracked open for a sequel if possible, but unfortunately they closed their doors and we will never get this sequel. I think the story mode is good and highly recommend people do at least one playthrough just to experience the story at least once. So that, combined with the not so stellar graphical presentation, I have to give Eternal Darkness's overall presentation 2 bits out of 4.
Roivas family to destroy its enemies. Knowing the nature of the ancients, it used its pawns to play them against each other.
Eternal Darkness, I do think, is one of the great hidden gems of the Nintendo GameCube. I mean, you got that awesome crafting system with the magic, the strategy with the different artifacts, and how the enemies are color-coded, and you have to pick the right color. It's almost like rock, paper, scissors. You have to pick the right one to defeat that element, but then also the element you have is weak to another element. It's great gameplay mechanics that really shine, and I honestly have to overlook the somewhat dated graphics on this game because the gameplay is just so awesome, and the story, while really just all over the place when you're playing through the game, it finally comes together in a nice, neat ending. My final verdict for Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem on the Nintendo GameCube is a must. I have to stress must buy for the casual and hardcore collector of the Nintendo GameCube, and you can find this game, depending on its condition, for around $30 online, but trust me, that is money well spent, as this game has never been re-released. It's only on the GameCube, so get this game. And hey, if you don't have a GameCube and you have a Wii, guess what? The Wii is backwards compatible, so bam, you can still play this game on your Wii. This is an absolute must-buy game, especially if you are a fan of the survival horror style games. This very much, it fits in that genre as Resident Evil, but it does so many other things that completely set it apart. It was an awesome experience. Sadly, Silicon Knights unfortunately folded, so we're never going to get a spiritual sequel. This is the only one. It's unique and it is a must-buy. And thank you guys for watching this review. Thanks for sticking around. Please hit that thumbs up and all of that good stuff. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And again, if there's a game you guys want us to take a look at, pop it in the comment section below, and we will try to, as fast as we can, find that game, buy it, play it, and review it. There's time and money constraints and all that good stuff, but we will focus on that request. I do enjoy doing fan requests for reviews. Anyway, guys, that's it for me for today. Happy Halloween, and as always, stay safe and play on.